Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Watch News Weekly. We got a few exciting topics to discuss today. Adrian, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Roman.
You're also wearing an independent.
We're in the independent mode today.
We are independent.
I got the artwork.
I like it.
It's actually the first time I had the Project Falcon. Actually, in person that I've seen it, and
This is the first time I've seen one as well.
This is the first time I've seen it in person, and officially my favorite artwork. And it might have something to do with little Richard Mille-esque.
Richard Mille-esque?
Yeah, with the carbon. Nevertheless, it's really cool, and it kind of matches the green.
Also, comfort level. They stepped it up with this one. That rubber strap with the Velcro.
The problem is that this Velcro is a little bit big for my wrist, but if it was a smaller size, it would be much more.
Ian, can you get me a pair of scissors?
Yeah, let's not
fix that real quick. Guys, let's jump into the first topic. And the first topic we want to talk about is a Rolex that's first time in auction, right? We're talking about the November 3rd and 4th Phillips auction that's going to take place in Geneva. Now, the most exciting part for me, you guys that watch us on social media, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, especially some of the unboxings where we actually physically show the watches you get in, you guys know that we're big fans of Kandjar dial watches, right? And Kandjar dial watches, we're talking about watches that came from the Sultanate of Oman. And with what the late Sultan did, may he rest in peace, he actually was kind of like an authorized Rolex dealer, and he was buying a lot of his stuff through Asprey of London, and Asprey of London put on these Kandjars onto the dials, onto the back of the watches, et cetera, like the modern version. Obviously the Kandjar logo is in the back, where some of the previous versions, the Kandjars are actually on the dial, making them super duper rare. And what they have is they have the reference 6265 and 18 karat yellow gold, and a Submariner 6200. Right? And of course, the most coveted would probably be the reference 6062 in stainless steel. Now, this previously unknown reference features a complete calendar mechanism and expected to fetch a pretty penny this November, with estimates ranging from 1 to 2 million. But just to back up the Kandjars, I'm very excited about this auction because I think the Kandjars are going to fetch buku dollars, further solidifying the fact that, I've been a big advocate of them, buying them up, and selling them as well. It's not like they last. I mean, I think the most rarest Kandjar that we sold was a Batic 3700 white gold, only 3 known in existence, and that went for $2 million. So I expect big results. Don't want to downplay the 2499s. We have a 2499 first series, and we have a third series 2499 with a bare dial in 18 karat gold. And of course, we also have the chronograph 1463, where we get numerals in stainless steel. But hold the horses. I think the star of the show, as much as I would love for it to be the Kandjar pieces, the star of the show is the 3700 in platinum. I'm going to be honest with you, I've been in business for 20 years. I didn't know that existed.
I didn't know it existed until this was brought to our attention via our social media and creative team.
I mean, honestly, it's
cool.
It says it's one of 3, known example, and the first without diamond indexes or bezel. Okay, and this is also the first time this watch is actually going up on a block. So what I'm going to call this auction is I just won the lottery, and I am going berserk because every single watch that I just mentioned in there, I mean,
I love the stories. I love the stories behind something like that. This 3700 platinum is one of 3 known examples. The question is always, I would love to, not so much a question, more of like a wish. I wish I can go back in time to the 70s and see who bought this watch originally. Like, who's the guy that said, hey, I'm going to buy this seemingly uninteresting watch of the time, 3700, right? It kind of goes back to the whole Royal Oak thing where a watch like that was just
nobody gave a shit about them.
Now let's make it in platinum, make it even heavier. Like, who's like, I want to buy this? You know what I mean?
Well, maybe there's a reason why there's 3 of them. See, I think that, and again, one of the theories that I put forth, don't take this for fact, it's just my own personal opinion, is when Genta designed the Royal Oak in '72, right? Because mind you, there was a 4-year gap between the Nautilus and the Royal Oak. But when Genta designed the Royal Oak in stainless steel, people were like, are you nuts? I'm not paying this kind of money for a steel watch. I can buy a Rolex for $150 or $200 or whatever it is, right? Steel watches are tool watches, they're throwaways, right? I'm not spending that kind of money, right? So that's why he quickly came out with the 5402 BC, the 5402 in yellow gold, and so on and so on. And they were not too far in price. So to justify like the price of that particular item. Nautiluses came 76. So now we're talking about at least a 4-year span. I don't know how much the public opinion changed in between them, but I'm guessing that because there are 3700s in steel and also in gold, I'm guessing that was probably the same kind of ordeal. Hey, let me show people some value because platinum was more expensive at the time.
I wonder what the difference between platinum and gold was at the time versus now.
We could probably look that up.
Yeah, we could look that up.
Let's see.
It's interesting to know.
Hold on, let me.
Because there certainly weren't not a lot of platinum watches.
Price of platinum in
1976.
1980 was 15.
Platinum was invented in 1980.
$15 per gram. How much is the price of gold in 1976? So it was $124 an ounce. So divide that by 22. 124 divided by.
28 grams in an ounce, 29 grams in an ounce.
I never sold drugs. Guys, how many grams in an ounce?
28 or 29.
Hey Siri, how many grams in an ounce? You're right, 28.35. That shows I was never a drug dealer, right?
I only know that from mathematics class.
Yeah, okay. Adrian, you want to tell me something? So let's go back to 124 divided by 28.3. So we're looking at a third of the price of platinum. So that obviously carried a big weight in terms of being there. But overall, I can't wait to see what this auction does. I have expectations for the 2499s. I have zero expectations for the 3700 in platinum. I would love for it to set a humongous record because it's going to shed light on what I've been screaming to people. Like, why are you going out there and buying these manufactured collectibles, these 5711s, 5811s? You're paying more than what you can pick up a nice 3700 for, and this is going to shed a lot of light into that. Let's get to the next topic. EDM and Zenith Lovers Unite. Now, Zenith watches DEFY Extreme Carl Cox edition lands September 25, limited to 100 watches priced at $30,000. Now, do you know who Carl Cox is?
I know Carl Cox very well. Okay. Carl Cox is like, I think if you ask any purist when it comes to EDM or any club girl or somebody at raves, they will probably say Carl Cox is like Michael Jordan.
He is.
Of techno.
It's him. I'm going to argue it's him. My time.
You're going to go back in time to people that no longer, Carl Cox is still spinning. I actually met Carl Cox at the airport.
Really?
Randomly at an airport.
How old is he now, 65?
I met him in an airport in LA. Nicest guy ever. I'm like, hey, Carl.
The thing that they did, and I like to play on EDM here, right? I like to play on the music, right? He basically, it's a pretty extraordinary creation if you think about it. At the heart of this watch, there's a most rugged and fastest 1/100th of a second chronograph, setting the tempo for accuracy that is second to none. And if you think about tempo, beats, fast beats, and so on and so forth, it certainly is a nod to Carl Cox's heritage and his music, if you think about it. My only concern is,
it's a lot of watches.
Look, they took cues, from his favorite set of turntables when it comes to design. Obviously, he was involved while doing it, blending sort of the world of horology and music and so on and so forth. It is a 45 millimeter beast, so it's a big watch, right? That kind of went back to the DEFY Extreme roots, because all the DEFY Extreme watches when they came out, they were humongous, 48 and so on and so forth. But my only concern is how many people out there know Carl Cox and how powerful is this?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It was kind of
Let's
weird.
Put the watch up on the screen.
They did stuff with Rolling Stones, right? Obviously, everybody knows who the Rolling Stones are, and this is no knock to Carl Cox, but Rolling Stones certainly isn't Carl Cox in terms of global popularity, right?
Exactly.
And 100 pieces is a lot of pieces limited edition for almost anything, if you really think about it.
It is. I agree. So Carl Cox is more appealing to people of my generation and then some your generation. More my generation than yours.
I disagree. I would say the ravers that go see him at Ultra and Tomorrowland as of today that are 18, 19, 20 years old,
they're not buying.
Most likely are not buying the watch anyway. But
exactly.
That's not
they spend all their money on ecstasy. We know that.
They don't wait in line to see Carl Cox. But again, this is interesting. When I first read this, I had to do a double take. So I was like, what?
Carl Cox.
When you see something or read something, you're like,
how about this? When I first heard it, in my mind, I'm like, who's Carl Cox? Because I didn't even imagine that it's Carl Cox, the DJ. I'm thinking it's some sports player or something. Can be a common name, right?
Yeah, naturally.
Look, I think looks-wise, it's a beautiful watch. I love it on the bracelet more than I love it on a rubber strap. The only thing is I don't know how many current generation buyers are going to be like, oh my God, that's a Carl Cox watch. Right?
Yeah.
Especially for a brand like Zenith that is not on the most popular list of watches, let's say. We do sell plenty of them, but nowhere near than some of the other brands outside of Rolex, AP, Audemars, Richard Mille, Patek, etc.
I'm really of the opinion that the whole ambassadorship, in other words, the watches that they made limited editions of for a particular individual, it's yesterday's news, right? There's nobody that...
AP been there, done that. Richard Mille's been there, done that.
RM is still doing it with taste. They're doing it very, very subtly, right? AP were the ones that did it and knocked it out of the park.
Of course.
Even now, they're not doing that.
They're waiting. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. I give the watch a big A. I love the way it looks, especially on the bracelet. But new RM colored ceramics, all right? 2 years ago, Richard Mille created a batch of limited edition RM0701 with colored ceramic cases. And now bringing back the concept with a new trio of models, and those and those are inspired by the 80s Italian art and architecture movement, Memphis design. They feature gem-set dials with guillotine elements in a variety of different shapes and colors. I'm not even going to get into much details. Let's just flip the pictures and look at the pictures. And I'm simply going to say that this is a take on the candies, right? On the candy collection. Although when they did the candy collection, they did it in a 16, and a 7, and I think a 37 as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
Bonbon.
The bonbons. Yeah, I call it the candy collection because that's what it was. And you know what? This is our deco-ish. This is nothing any more different than what they did initially with the bonbon collection. But
I just love it.
We all know that these are going to sell through the roof. They're going to sell like hotcakes. They're going to sell over retail. And you know what? If I was buying my wife a watch and somebody showed me this trio, I would say absolutely. Which one are you picking?
Oh man, I'm kind of leaning towards the purple one.
The pink would be my first choice. The baby blue, I don't know, and that would probably be either the pink or the purple.
This just points out where RM stands as a brand today. You know, if you looked at a lot of their most recent releases, they're really pushing the envelope in terms of their artistry. It's like this is a representation of a brand that's gotten to the point that, hey, we've tried everything and everything was a success thus far. Let's see how far we can take this without really killing the brand, without doing something stupid. Yeah, they did the Ferrari plate, as I like to call it, right?
They didn't kill it with that though. Have you seen one on the market?
That's what I'm saying. They didn't kill it. It was almost like one of those things where like they threw a jab out there and then kind of seeing what the reaction was. I haven't seen a single one for sale on the market.
And guess what? And you won't. Because they're gonna go to these super duper vetted users that have humongous collections, all purchased from the manufacturer, guys that will never sell that watch. I guarantee you every Ferrari owner out there would covet that watch. Because think about your options when it came to Ferrari pieces. Originally it was Girard-Perregaux. Then it was Panerai. Big flop. Ended up as a closeout along with the GPs. What was next? Hublot. Not going to bust on Hublot. They made great looking Ferrari pieces. They made too many. Now you got Richard Mille. Now that's something else. You know what I mean?
You know what I'd like to see them do?
No, but I'm sure you'll tell me.
I'd like to see them go back to the more or less early days of not so much the 5s, but 10K sizes. And do some type of cool concept there. 10K size, 29K size, and really, really push the envelope there because as we've seen, the more brands produce models, the smaller the scale is in terms of size of the watch.
Yeah, right? they have been scaling down.
So that'd be interesting to see.
I guarantee you'll see men wearing this too.
I'm calling it right now. They're bringing 10 sizes back. 10 and 29 sizes.
And I'm bringing sexy back. And let's go to the next topic. The $1 million watch every robber wants. Okay, so Richard Milles have not only become must-haves, not only for the princes and the rich people, but international criminals that go into extraordinary lengths to steal them. So Christopher Marinello, he's the CEO and founder of London headquarters Art Recovery International. These are guys that when expensive things get stolen, they work for an insurance company. They recover expensive stuff, and these guys are pretty good. What was that movie with Pierce Brosnan? Remember?
James Bond?
No, well, not that one, obviously. The one where he stole the art.
Thomas Crown Affair?
Thank you, Thomas Crown Affair. Great movie. So the girl was that was of what this company does. So look, all of a sudden
is that Sting song from that movie? A dream of none. That was Thomas Crown Affair. That was. Tell me it was. I'm telling you it was.
I'm not sure.
I think it was.
Now you got Ian singing in the back over there.
Yeah, anyway. Was that song from Thomas Crown Affair?
Somebody Google that.
Song? Somebody Google that.
So look, more and more of these high-end Richard Milles started showing up, stolen, being reported every week. And I'm quoting Christopher. He's saying, all of a sudden, more and more of these high-end Richard Mille watches started showing up, stolen, being reported to me every single week from holiday locations like Monte Carlo, Milan, London, and New York. I've recovered watches for major celebrity, for Formula One drivers, we know who he's talking about, for influencers, people I can't name because I am an attorney. So the latest publicly disclosed Richard Mille heist occurred in broad daylight over Labor Day weekend when Formula One Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz Jr., still in his racing uniform after having come in third place in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, which was a great finish for him, for his home crowd. I watched the race. His RM6702 is valued at about $629,000. How did they get this value? Valued at $629,717.
Well, how is this Zverev valued that?
But his is a piece unique.
Right, but it's not Zverev, it's just 6702. Made for him. Yeah, I know.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Okay, so the street robbers were foiled when Sainz and bodyguard chased the thieves, helped by passersby, caught them until the cops arrived. This is actually a quote from me. Last year, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I did
53,
which is great, by the way. So I did an interview for the Post. They reached out to me and said, "Can we get your opinion in regards to this?" And the funny part is, if you guys saw me posted on Instagram, they deemed me to be 53 years old. I don't know, but here's my own quote. Allow myself to quote myself. Last year in Miami, during a Formula One race, at least 4 wealthy fans had their Richard Mille watches valued in a total of an estimated $2 million slipped off their wrist in a crowd by slick thieves. Recalls watch veteran dealer Roman Sharf, who himself was sporting a Richard Mille that day. Sharf, 53, CEO of Luxury Bazaar and star of popular YouTube wristwatch channel, told the Post, "I didn't get taken because I'm always aware of my surroundings." So, look, we live in a day and age of social media. By the way, I'm 48. We live in a day and age of social media.
Finally, I was waiting for it.
Day and age of social media. We live in a day and age where people like to flex, and they love to flex on social media. The flexing that you used to do in person, whether driving a fancy car, wearing a fancy watch at a place, showing it to somebody, is now on steroids because it's a lot easier and seems less cheesy. Like, imagine this. You have a room full of people at an event, and you have an Instagram page, right? If you walk into a room full of people, say, "Oh my God, look at this Richard Mille, this $5 million, right? You look like a f***ing douchebag." Mm-hmm. Now, you go on Instagram and say, "Look at my $5 million, it's fine," right? You don't feel as bad yourself, it's perfectly fine, and this is definitely the culprit. The other thing, like if you guys notice my story, if you notice Adrian's story, wherever we are somewhere, you notice you will never be able to tell where we are at any given moment. When we're at a place, somewhere, where we're traveling, whether we're doing business, and so on and so forth, the story you see on Instagram, posts after we have already left.
Post dated.
It's post dated. Oh, thank you. It's post dated. Let's go to the next page, by the way. I don't know if you, there's Carlos Sainz himself. And there's his Richard Mille. So with
it is Zverev, but it's not 600 grand.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's 300 grand.
Sure.
Okay, give it that?
Give or take.
280?
Yeah, fine.
280, 300. I mean, look, put it this way. His personal Richard Mille, let's say if it's not numbered, it was personally given to him, is worth more than 600 grand. And
I mean, who better than the F1 drivers? I mean, this happens to Charles Leclerc because they're a little driving Richard Mille billboard. You know what I mean? And they wear this stuff all the time. They're the biggest target.
That is very true. But again, it just goes back to the one thing I told the Post in the interview, and I said, look, we were sitting in a suite. There was like 24 of us, right? I was wearing an RM. You were wearing an RM. A couple other guys in our booth or suite were wearing an RM. Guess what we did? After every time, let's say it was practice, it was qualifiers, or after the race on Sunday, what did we do? We stayed in we stayed in our suite first of all until the general crowd, because there's 420,000 people, like right? Then we waited for the crowd to dissipate, so we're not like bumping into people.
That's how they get.
And then what I like to do is I like to put my hand in my pocket with the watch, because then it's really, really tough to go in your pocket still, or just do this and walk with it this way. That's what you did. I remember you just walked like this.
Like this.
Well, Adrian, to be fair, Adrian was just waiting. He was looking for them. He was waiting to knock somebody out. But guys, look, at the end of the day,
they crowd, like what happens is like a mosh pit of people that come out, hundreds of thousands of them. And what they'll do is one guy will bump you from the side and the other guy will take you. That's
exactly. They work in groups of 2 or 3.
And then once they break off into a crowd of a stampede, it's like you're not going to find them.
We had a friend at that event. That was the first year of Miami Grand Prix. There was a friend at the event.
Giving us alerts?
He was up in a helicopter. He was running security for the entire event, and he was texting me. It's like, "Oh, a Paddock just got taken. A Richard Mille just got taken. This just got taken." And that was the first year that it happened. And so, but even without those alerts, we know how to be aware of our surroundings. Be aware of your surroundings, and look. And if you're going somewhere where you feel like it may not be safe, and it's a big crowded event, like an Eagles game or something like that, just don't put on your Richard Mille. That's all.
People at Eagles games don't wear Richard Mille.
We probably would. Next topic. And speaking of Formula One, Lewis Hamilton co-designs an IWC chronograph watch. It's a limited edition Portuguese tourbillon retrograde chronograph, and Lewis Hamilton actually co-designed it. Lustrous teal colored dial, jumping on the bandwagon of Tiffany a little bit, but what they're calling it teal, all right? 12 diamond markers, teal textile strap, nice size, 43.5 millimeter platinum case, sapphire crystal back, yada, yada, yada. And the face presents the 3 complication chronograph, function subdial, which can be used to time an F1 race. For example, rests at 12 o'clock. Curving along the left side of the dial, the timepiece incorporates a retrograde date display. And most impressive at 6 o'clock, the Portuguese tourbillon retrograde chronograph sports a flying, hacking minute tourbillon. Very eye-catching, right? I mean, beautifully designed watch. Let's put the watch up on the screen.
Yeah.
And there's our guy.
Yep. I like the strap.
So everything about that watch, I'm going to say, well, I'm biased. I'm a big Lewis Hamilton fan. I'm a big Mercedes fan.
Would you get a tattoo like that on your hand?
I would not get any tattoos, no.
I think you'd look good with it.
You think?
Yeah.
No tattoos for me. But I will tell you this, that watch would be for me.
It's a cool watch.
It's a very cool watch. It's a breath
of fresh air.
It's a it's a breath of fresh air. It's a good redesign and good
because it's like upside down.
Yeah, guys, can we flip it?
I liked what they did with the strap for sure. The Velcro.
And I got to tell you, that dial is not a jump. They're not jumping on the bandwagon of Tiffany whatsoever.
It's legit teal.
It's a legit teal dial. I like the way
Good looking watch.
It's a good looking watch, and the fact that I can tell that Lewis Hamilton actually had something to do with it, because most previous Portuguese tourbillons were a little blah and boring. They were just very plain Jane, and this is a lot more rock and roll. So shout out to Lewis Hamilton. Shout out to IWC. Definitely good looking watch. Shout out to Lewis Hamilton. Now make that watch in a non-tourbillon.
Little code 1159-ish, I will say though. Yeah, with the design and the strap.
Yeah, but it still is the original Portuguese. So if anything, you can say 59-ish is more Portuguese.
Yeah, Portuguese never had a strap like that before.
I see what you did there. Do we have any more topics to discuss today? No, we do not, unless you want to talk about, real quick, of how you're seeing, because me personally, I got a little scared in the beginning of September. We usually...
Don't be scared, Roman.
I'm
here.
I got a little scared in the beginning. I got a little scared, like as usual, we talked about having a kick-ass summer, because June and July were record months unexpectedly. August, in comparison, we can call it dead, but still did decent business. The month ended up well. My expectations, as usual, year in and year out, is the beginning of September to go balls to the wall, and I didn't see that jump till about second part of this month, and we're coming to the end of September, and I saw like a really nice run towards the end. Thoughts on the market and where it's at?
Although the rat race is over, the watch is being used as a financial instrument, so to speak, for a lot of retail buyers. That's kind of dissipated at this point. And what happens now is you're starting to see much more transactions that are going direct to consumer, and the passion is back. In other words, the demand for the product hasn't gone anywhere, but you're seeing a lot more, I don't want to say honest is the word, but honest transactions. Like, hey, you know what? I've wanted this watch. I see the price has been trading flat for quite some time, and I want it now. I'm going to pay $100,000 rather than $250,000, and they buy it. So what we're seeing is, in the absolute craze, if you remember, our wholesale business was booming, along with our retail business. Now our wholesale business is relatively nothing, and we're capturing the retail market.
I mean, listen, to be fair, once we made the decision to get away from wholesale and concentrate fully on retail right before COVID started, the majority of our business has been retail. And when we were selling wholesale in the boom, it was just like, well, the guy's paying my website price, I'll just sell it to him. Like, it was absolutely insane. We still managed to ensure that majority of the stuff went to retail clients, except towards the end. Our retail business, our wholesale business, if you think about it, really picked up towards the end, when it was an absolute peak, and we almost like felt bad selling pieces to retail clients, because it was just, I personally couldn't sell a stainless steel Panda Daytona to a retail client for $60,000. It was just insane. I'm sorry.
Listen, I was even wrong with my assessment. I had said when the market really started to crash, because remember, when something is happening and it's happening in the moment, there's a certain general anxiety that happens and a paranoia. And my original thinking was, okay, there's going to be a crash. Stimulus and money is going to be sucked out of the market. People are going to panic, and we're going to see pre-COVID levels of prices for the most part, maybe a little bit more. And I was wrong. They're still higher than COVID prices. In other words,
much higher than pre-COVID prices.
Yeah, still much higher than pre-COVID prices. And
I remember selling it right before COVID. I remember when the shit hit the fan, we all got scared and the market just like stopped for a couple of months before the boom started. We sold a 15202 brand new for like 38 grand. Remember that?
Yeah.
You're not picking up a 15202 for 38,000 anywhere near that today.
But then you have situations that happen like this. And I don't know if we covered it on Watch News or not about Audemars Piguet increasing production during these times. So what you saw happen during COVID was a brand, and we're going to use AP for an example because it's very interesting what they did. They probably capitalized the best on what happened during COVID and the stimulus, because what they did was, it was perfect timing for them. Cut all the ADs out, they went direct to consumer, and all at the same time constricting supply and raising retail prices 3 times in a matter of time when money just kept hitting the market.
They did that, you know when? They did that leading up to the 2008 crisis as well.
Maybe
they raised. There was a lot of volatility in currencies. They used that as an excuse, and they raised prices twice in one year and twice in another.
So now you have already inflated retail prices, because I was actually shocked when I came and found out the retail price on just a steel double balance. It's like 100 grand now. It's way more than what it used to be. That's besides the point. So can they, as a brand, be able to fill the supply and demand curve with higher production while at the same time leaving such a high retail price on everything? Here's the thing. My biggest concern is for that brand.
So if I'm them, here's what I'm doing. You understand how long every single one of their boutiques waiting list is? You see how many people are there? There's a ton.
They don't want to welcome me on their list.
There's a ton.
I try.
There's a ton. So if I'm sitting at the factory and I'm doing a calculation, I say, okay, well, here across all of our boutiques, ADs or whatever it is, we have 5,000 people or 50,000 people waiting on a particular piece, right? Take a certain percentage, kick it off to say, okay, you know what, the call comes and they don't buy it, something has changed or whatever it might be, right? And take X percentage of that is guaranteed sale. Produce it, sell, you're still with the same, and then next year see what's up, see if that waiting list still continues. Because the waiting list is, here's the thing, if you got a waiting list of 100 people on something, right, and you just delivered, by the time you deliver those 100 watches, 100 more will sign up on that waiting list, right? The waiting list might become shorter,
yeah,
and then they look at the production numbers.
But you can't, it's very hard to run your business on the premise of the wait list, because again, the leverage that they had with the wait list, and by leverage I mean big complicated pieces and code 1159s. If a code 1159, and I said this many times before, if you had to buy that in order to get a Royal Oak, and the code 1159 was 42,000 and it was trading for 35,000, let's say you took a little loss, it's not 35 anymore. You're talking about 25 now. It's a big dip. So people are thinking, you know what? That's why, hold on, and actually this is where I'm going to finish my thought, is why we've actually sold more APs now than before. And it's not a pricing thing, it's because people are like, you know what? It doesn't make sense for me to go into AP, play the game with them, take the risk, have to buy something I don't want. I'm just gonna go to you now. I'm gonna buy this 15500 Blue at 50,000, 48,000, whatever it is, instead of 105. Now we're ready, and I'm not going to play the game anymore.
Give me a mic, I want to drop it.
Boom!
I want to drop a mic.
Boom!
Well, we can go on about this forever, but this is Watch News Weekly. It's supposed to be a fairly quick and easy episode. I think we covered some pretty cool topics with a little update at the end. I want to thank you guys for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Adrian, it was a pleasure having you. We'll see you guys next week.